You've spent, as you just described, decades literally working in the in the insurance brokerage business, but also working with nonprofits. So I'm curious, what was like the moment or the pattern that you identified that led you to thinking relative to insurance, relative to nonprofits, this could be done better?
So it's not a moment. It's a accumulation of things where there the delivery process for insurance products and services hasn't changed a lot in the last 100 years. And there are some inefficiencies built into it, and they always kind of caught my attention. It culminated several years ago. I was working as a consultant for a large publicly traded company, and we went through an RFP process, request for proposal, which basically is an audition for 4 or 5 brokers to come in, show their wares, say, pick me, pick me, pick me.
Sure.
I'd done that a lot on that side of the table. And I always thought, man, we're the best. Our presentation is the best. How did we get that? How did we not get that? That type of thought process. And now for the first time, I was on the client side. And I was sitting next to the COO and general counsel, and we had the folks come in, and I had written the request for proposal, the questions. I reached out to the group and said, give me your best RFPs. And I put together this thing. Thought I did a pretty nice job at it. I was pretty excited. And then as all these guys came in and spoke, I realized it was just different shades of gray. And I was in the business, and I sat there going, how in the world do you make a decision
What's the differentiating
based on that?
factor here?
If
Yeah.
if 5 folks come in and say the sky is blue, who said it the best? I mean, so it was interesting. So I got to the end of that process, and I turned to the COO and the general counsel, and I said, who do you like? I will make sure whoever you pick does their job. That's how I viewed my role. And they said, well, who do you want to work with? You make the call. And I was like, wow, okay. That was interesting. But what it did, the takeaway was it gave me the perspective of a client of how do you make sense of this? How do you make the right decision? You combine that with a couple elements in the industry where brokers are getting bought and sold a lot. Each time people are making a lot of money. There's a lot of money swashing around the system. And the client, the guy who's creating that money, isn't benefiting from it. So that led to the creation of Unitas, where clients are brought in as equity partners, and they then share in the profits and the distribution, and they effectively can convert a business expense into a new revenue stream out of, effectively thin air, and that can go to extend their mission and hopefully do good things.
So that takes me right to my next question, which is, I guess just given what you just described, nonprofits are kind of sitting on value that they don't realize is there. What are most of them, or how are most nonprofits thinking about insurance versus how they should be thinking about it?
Well, I think that insurance is an interesting product to buy. It's not going to get you a big audience at a cocktail party, but it is an interesting product to buy. And if you stop and think about it for a second, if I sold you a chair and it was missing a leg, you know right away, right? If I sell you
at a cocktail party, I would.
that's true. And insurance is words; it's a contract, and it's you're getting access to capital if something bad happens, and something bad doesn't happen very often. So a lot of times you'll get away with, let's say a less than optimal product. You don't even know it until you need it, and then it becomes something. And on top of, if you combine that with my first story about how does different shades of gray, how do you make these decisions? It's completely a subjective exercise. And there are good folks everywhere. Everybody's got a broker. Everybody's out there doing the best they can. And it's really more of an institutional question. And what we've tried to do is institutionally introduce an objective element of how to make this decision, and that is to be a partner and to take the advantage and to reap the advantages of partnership, which includes a revenue stream. And we're the only folks doing that, so we think we've arrived at something that objectively supports a decision.
So okay,
Through the broker.